40 years ago, August 9th, 1974, Richard Nixon resigned his office. The President of the United States had finally come to the realization that his involvement in the Watergate scandal was not going to simply pass into history. He was part of the conspiracy, and after years of striving to be the most powerful man in America, he was forced to depart in disgrace. So many stories have been told about that time and about the man, but so few were close to the individual and the issue, and can shed some real light on what it was like being at the epicenter of history. Let us welcome to MidPoint. He was a White House special assistant at the time and spoke with the president on that day before he resigned. He is now a senior fellow at the Pepperdine University School of Public Policy. Bruce Herschensohn joins us. Bruce, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure, Ed. Thank you.
You had an opportunity to speak to the president. We wrote about it. Our own John Gizzi, our Beltway insider, had a chance to write about it, speak with you as well. It's on the Newsmax.com website, a revealing conversation that you had with the president just before he resigned. Can you set the scene for us and then tell us a little bit about that talk?
Yeah, I can. This was the Wednesday before the resignation speech that he gave to the nation on Thursday, and then he left on Friday. At that time, L. Haig was the chief of staff of the president, and he was trying to ensure that no one would visit with the president who felt as I did, that he should not resign. And so I made an end run, as it was called, and that was by talking to Julie, one of the president's daughters. And she worked it out, and I had this meeting with the president in which I was trying to convince him not to resign. And we had I guess it was around 45 minutes, and it was a good meeting. I thought it went well. I didn't think he was going to resign, but he did.
There are those to this day, Bruce, who still believe that he should have resigned. Even the president himself apparently had some thought that it was going to be the best thing for the nation. And you tried to talk him out of it. That's interesting because so many people still believe he did the right thing. What do you imagine it might have been like had he stayed?
I believe this, and the reason that I was trying to convince him was twofold. One of them was that any president during my lifetime had done the same kind of things as his administration did. The nation was convinced that the President Nixon, was the only one who ever recorded phone calls. Not at all true. FDR did it on a wire machine, and we all knew it. Journalists knew it at the time. People wouldn't come forward with this. President Eisenhower did it on a dictabelt. President Kennedy did it on a telephone. President Johnson did it on a telephone. President Johnson is the one who took President Nixon on a tour during transition to show him the devices that are used, and that he advises the president to do it too. That this is good for, certainly if he ever wants to write his memoirs, if he wants to set history straight, and at the same time there's a legal implication. He would have proof of what had happened. And so the president did it. Not one person in any of those staffs came forward, and certainly the Kennedy and Johnson administration staffs were around, and said, look, my guy did it too. They didn't. They let it go on to let the nation believe that. Other things that happened, I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but I felt too, in a practical sense, that although he was going to be impeached, the Senate I believed, would never have voted to run him out of office. I don't think it would, because too many of those senators had done much worse than his administration had done. And so for those reasons, by and large, I felt that way. He did not. He said to me, don't ever attack a former president to defend me. And he mentioned that Mrs. Johnson is a lovely woman. His words, because his vocabulary included the word lovely, mine didn't. And he said that she's gone through enough hardship, and Mrs. Kennedy is alive and has gone through hell. And he said, I don't want to do them any damage. And I agreed. I wouldn't speak ill of a former president, and I certainly have not done that since then. I will speak about some of their staffs because they were around. You have to remember that President Nixon, at this crucial time of history, was one of the only presidents in our history to have no former president around. They were all gone. And my belief is that President Johnson would have supported him and that President Kennedy would have supported him.
We don't want to rewrite history here, because certainly there are those who are saying that at this time, 40 years after it happened, some are going to wax poetic here and they're going to try and embellish history. Let's not do that. Watergate exists. The president was involved. There was an issue. The president left office because of his involvement in the break-ins, the conspiracy. But in the same breath, don't we have to at least say that there were so many good things that this president really did? I mean, broadening the U.S. Civil Rights Commission here, creating Office of Management and Budget, reforms in welfare, health care, civil rights, energy, environmental policy. It's not as if this is the only thing that he did. Yes, he did wrong, but he did a lot of right, didn't he?
I would say he did not do a lot wrong. I think when you said that he was involved in the break-in, he wasn't, and no one has said that he was.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't physically involved in the break-in.
He didn't. But
you're exactly right. Let me make sure he was not.
He didn't even know about it.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of those things that you itemized, I'm glad that you itemized them. But the chief thing that he did that was so genius and meritorious was in the field of foreign policy. That was his love. That was his every interest. He could go around the world in a conversation with you without ever looking at any notes, without even looking at a map, and talk country by country by country by country about everything that was going on in the world. He knew most of the chiefs of state, certainly not all of them. I mean, there's darn near 200 countries. But he certainly knew who they were, and he knew every country's problems. Foreign leaders, even after he resigned from office, wanted to see him generally more than they'd want to see the current sitting president of the United States, because he knew so much. He would go and talk to President Sadat of Egypt. Well, Sadat certainly was a knowledgeable on the Mideast, but he didn't know much about Latin America. He didn't know much about Asia. He didn't know much about sub-Saharan Africa. And so when foreign chiefs of state had the opportunity to talk to President Nixon in or out of office, it was seen as a tremendous opportunity of someone who really knew his stuff. That was his passion. And the communist governments, certainly the Soviet Union, Leonid Brezhnev, made zero progress during President Nixon's administration. I don't think that you could say that for any other president during the Cold War.
With about the 2 minutes or so that we have left here, is it fair to say that Richard Nixon, the things that he did, the under-the-table dealings that he did, the dirty tricks, if you will, however you want to phrase it, he certainly didn't do anything different than other presidents were doing. He simply got caught.
Yes, I would say it wasn't just getting caught. It was the idea that journalists would be totally mute about other presidents when they did those things. It was like the ethic, although I'm putting that words in quotation marks, not to talk about those kinds of things. And so they didn't. So when they talked about it in terms of President Nixon, it was like a revelation that this president, among all the presidents that we've seen, has done this. And that just was not true. They despised President Nixon.
Why?
For a series of reasons. Ever since he was a congressman, they did, and his dealings with, in saying that Alger Hiss was a communist, which of course he was. But the real key was the fact that after Watergate, months after Watergate, he won 49 states, more than any other president who ran for president, and this was in re-election. And then just days after he was inaugurated, we, no matter what anyone says who do not remember this, we won the war in Vietnam. January the 23rd of 1973, we won the war. And it isn't that I'm saying it, it's that the leadership of North Vietnam said it. They, in their own memoirs, said they were convinced they had lost the war. They signed the Paris Peace Accords, which gave total freedom and independence to South Vietnam, and it not only did that, but it said that if there was any violation of this by the North Vietnamese, I'm paraphrasing, but so you can get the sense of the text.
5 seconds.
If there was any violation of the North Vietnamese, we would resupply South Vietnam. Our Congress was not pleased about this.
And there it is. We're going to have to leave it at that. Please, thank you so much for sharing all this. Bruce Herschensohn, we appreciate it. It is Nixon had revealing conversations just before he resigned. It's on the Newsmax.com website. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And MidPoint continues.